that after that incident, Lucy could not be completely cured. The girl began to ask Lucy if she had hearing problems, but Cullen tried to explain that the girl did not have such symptoms. Kana abruptly asked her brother to be silent because Lucy had to answer. Cullen froze in place at the imperious tone, but he did not argue and fell silent. After thinking for a while, Lucy admitted that she had hearing problems. Her words hurt Cullen, because if she didn't tell him, then she didn't trust him. After completing the examination, Kana made sure that she was not mistaken with the diagnosis. The brother and sister left Lucy's room. The girl said that the disease that Lucy has is curable, so she needs to prepare the necessary tools. However, Cullen didn't seem to hear his sister. He couldn't understand why she was able to learn the truth from the girl so deftly when she didn't even tell him. Her brother asked Kana to explain how she was able to find out such a thing, but from her experience as a doctor, the girl knew that all patients did not agree on something. Cullen noted that not only patients are silent about secrets, and hinted that he expects more information from his sister. The girl remembered how in childhood he laughed at her and asked her to do his errands, which he himself arranged. But the most offensive thing was that at that time Cullen asked not to talk to him, although now he demands the opposite. The girl did not hide anything, but simply admitted that if she had a complex disease, she would not complain of additional symptoms. Cullen tried to find a catch in her confession, but his attempts were unsuccessful. But he was shocked when his sister moved on to discuss the doctor's deception. Kana was unhappy that after the doctor's visits, the girl was still sick. The girl's conclusions that Lucy did not talk about all the problems were due to the fact that everyone would consider the girl to be a malingerer, puzzled Cullen. The guy tried to justify himself, because he really does everything to make Lucy comfortable in the house, but Kana knew that this was not enough. Cullen Addis has always been someone who has been supported since childhood, so he will never understand someone whose life is associated with universal contempt. Kana hinted that Cullen did not live alone in the house, so the girl who was born to a maid would always be under surveillance. After all, no matter how Cullen treats Lucy, he will never force the rest of the family to change their views. Therefore, anyone in the Addis family, standing behind their backs, will always look with contempt not only at Lucy, but also at Cullen. And in particular, Cullen's mother, sister, and brother will be the main disgruntled people in the house. After all, unlike Cullen, Lucy sees the true actions of these people. After such a frank monologue, Cullen did not know what he could answer in defense of the Addis family. The girl did not put more pressure on the guy. She understood perfectly well that he himself would not have guessed what his family was really like. However, casting a careful glance at the guy, she was glad that at least over time, Cullen had changed and now showed care for her younger half-sister. After all, he had never treated her like that, even in moments of her weakness or illness. Usually he watched her suffering from the sidelines. Although he tried to be polite, it was all just a mask that helped him get satisfaction from the humiliations that he came up with. But at any moment, the mask cracked, and Cullen could throw a phrase that would mean that Kana did not belong in crowded places, especially when she was sick. At such moments, Cullen was unstoppable, and he continued verbal, nasty things about the girl for a very long time, demanding that she lock herself in the room and not come out until she was completely healthy. The sad memories are over. Now Kana is no longer a child, so there is no point in worrying much about it. Somewhere deep in her heart, though, she was hurt that Cullen had treated her like a bug, and now she was suddenly trying to act like a decent older brother. Approaching the table, Kana decided that now she herself would use her brother to prepare a place for herself to continue living in this house. The girl asked to open a library for her so that she could study the necessary books for further treatment. She analyzed the symptoms she was able to learn from Lucy with those described in the reference books. On the Western continent, there was a viral infection that led to the fact that a person developed facial paralysis. There are drugs that are needed for treatment, but their search is very difficult. After reviewing many documents, Kana realized that the medicines that exist in Korea are also available on the Western continent, so she will definitely be able to use her knowledge of Oriental medicine. Although Kana didn't know all the complications of a viral infection yet, she had already assumed that the treatment would be difficult and long, so she could stay at the manor for a while. Cullen didn't distract her from her work, but his incredulous gaze didn't leave her back. The guy spied what exactly Kana was studying. He wondered if she was really capable of mastering the medicine of the Eastern continent. After all, the eastern continent was discovered by a navigator only 10 years ago, when the first ships reached an unknown coast. Therefore, knowledge about new lands is not yet completely reliable. But the basis of Oriental medicine is the study of herbs and the preparation of special decoctions. After finishing with the books, Canna realized that her knowledge from another life coincided with those that she was able to discover in this world during the exploration of the eastern continent. Although folk medicine is developing rapidly, there is always a risk that the combination of certain herbs can lead to incorrect treatment. Canna thought about it. After all, the knowledge in the reference book was different, because it was not written by people from the eastern continent. The girl began to write a prescription for medicine from the book, after which she promised Cullen that she now had an exact treatment plan for Lucy. The guy picked up a sheet with a long list of various herbs and plants. Canna said that these are the necessary ingredients to create a product that will heal Lucy. Cullen looked at the list again. It was the first time he had seen such plant names, so he was a little anxious. His brother watched Canna at work from the sidelines. He still didn't trust her, but the way she deftly learned about Lucy's new symptoms softened his skepticism a little. It was a tough day for Canna, and while Cullen was instructing the servants on the medication list, she decided to head to her lab. Cullen said that her bedroom and laboratory were as they were. His words surprised the girl very much, because she did not think that there would be any memory of her in this house. The brother finished the discussion with the butler and admitted that his father had personally locked all the doors so that no one could enter the rooms. The butler handed Canna the key to her room. On the bedroom door, there was indeed a strong lock that protected the room from foreign intrusions. There was silence in the room. The furniture was untouched. Canna walked through the living room. She was surprised that everything was still as it had been 7 years ago when she went to Valentino's house. As she looked through the closets, she wondered why Duke Addis had left everything unchanged. Canna opened the door to the balcony. She believed that the Duke should definitely get rid of everything. But she suddenly realized that the inviolability of the room meant a great deal, as if Duke Addis wanted to remember how the owner of the room lived. Everything suggested that Alexandro Addis was really waiting for his daughter's return. The girl decided to get these thoughts out of her head, because she could misunderstand everything, because her father had no reason to keep her things. Canna decided that the worries were enough, so she returned from the balcony to the room to go to the underground laboratory. The girl lit the lamp and headed through the dark corridors to the laboratory. Although a lot of the equipment was under a large layer of dust, she still noticed that the room, as well as the bedroom, remained unchanged. Drawings with descriptions of plants and their properties were still hanging on the blackboard. Experimental decoctions were in glass flasks in a separate cabinet. Even her books remained unchanged. Now Canna will be able to practice alchemy again. After examining the rack with books, the girl opted for a special reference book. Since childhood, books have been her best friends, so in her absence, she missed them very much. After so much time, she, just like in childhood, is ready to plunge into reading books with pleasure. Canna smelled the books, which, although they were in a closed room, still retained the aroma of ink and paper. But her moment of serene memories was interrupted by a rumble from the next room. The girl turned towards the door. Someone was very persistently trying to break into the laboratory. With a terrible crash, the door gave way and swung open at the blow of a strong, manly hand. The next moment, the younger brother of the Addis family appeared in the doorway. The guy was angry, and Canna clearly felt all his negativity. The guy went to the laboratory. He was angry. The very appearance in Canna's family house infuriated him. And now that he had driven the girl into a trap, he decided to personally deal with her. Orsini Addis was supposed to attend a banquet with the imperial family until the evening, but arrived home a little earlier. The guy came to his chambers when he was disturbed by one of the butlers. Orsini brushed off that he attended banquets too often, so they did not give him pleasure, but now he wanted to meet his brother. The butler was worried. During the absence of the ducal family, a guest appeared in the house, whom Mr. Orsini would definitely not want to see. Stuttering a little, the assistant reported that the Duchess Valentino had arrived at the estate, and his words took Orsini by surprise. The guy did not know how to react. He only asked the servant if he was mistaken about Canna. The butler recounted all the events that happened, including that Canna is now helping Cullen develop a treatment for their youngest sister. There was a sharp crack of furniture in the living room, so the assistant did not have time to finish the story. Orsini freaked out at the mention of his half-sister at the estate, so he broke the decorative screen. He couldn't believe that his brother had personally brought a curse into their home, and that Lucy's treatment was just an excuse to harm the family. Orsini found Canna in the underground laboratory. He had to break down the door, but the frightened girl looked gave him unprecedented pleasure. Canna didn't move. Her brother had already started hurling insults at her, but she was still shocked to do something. The girl felt that she was once again lost in the trap of fear that only Orsini could have aroused, because over the years his predatory gaze had not changed, but had only become more dangerous. She knew that it was impossible to avoid meeting him, but she hoped to postpone their reacquaintance at least a little. Canna tried to resist the fear, but her fingers trembled and her legs did not move. Suddenly, the memory flashed through her mind of how, as a child, Orsini had advised her to do something useful and disappear from their family. After that, the guy grabbed her by the collar of her dress and threatened that if she looked at him, he would personally kill her. Now that she met him again, she wanted to look down out of habit, but this time she was able to restrain herself. Throwing the book on the table, the girl turned to her brother and greeted him. The guy froze at the aisle. Canna calmed her nerves and admitted that she was really glad to meet him today. While Orsini was in confusion, the girl jumped up to him, put her arm around his shoulders, and surprised him by confessing that she missed him very much. The girl stretched out her hand to him, but her motives were not the most pleasant. For many years she had been hatching a plan how at the first meeting she would avenge all the suffering that Orsini had inflicted on her. The guy intercepted the girl's palm and casually pushed her hand aside. Orsini began to joke that after living in Valentino's family, she had completely lost her mind, since she approached him so easily. But she needed to be more careful, because her father's ban on returning home could not be so easily bypassed if she pretended to be a doctor. He grinned evilly, for he was already looking forward to showing Canna where she belonged again. The guy grabbed the girl's hands to push her aside. But before doing so, he again called the girl dirt, because it was his favorite insult. However, this time, Canny did not take her eyes off his face, but just smiled sweetly, which is why the memory abruptly fell on the guy. One summer day, when Orsini went for a walk in the forest, he ran into Canna in a clearing. Then the little girl did not notice him, so Orsini could watch her curiously. At that time, Canna was very interested in alchemy, so studying books in the forest was her favorite activity. It was one of the happiest moments of the past for Orsini, so he didn't even notice how he moved closer to Canna, almost touching the girl with his foreheads. But she asked him to keep his distance. The guy did not expect such actions from himself, so he quickly pushed the girl to the bookcase. He denied that he himself was drawn to Canna, so he almost lost control of himself from the long absence of the girl. The girl went to the table. She noticed her brother's confusion, so she began to tease him that he definitely missed her. Orsini did not want to be caught in the truth, so angrily began to deny everything and shout insults, wanting the girl to leave the estate again. Canna promised that she would stay at the estate until she helped Cullen cure Lucy, after which she found a special glass test tube on the table. The girl paid attention to her brother, who was confused. He wanted her to leave the house so that she would start fearing him again, but the calmness with which Canna looked at him made Orsini nervous. When Canna turned away from him, Orsini became angry. He almost swung his fist in the direction of the girl. Suddenly, the girl threw the contents of the test tube in the direction of her brother. Orsini stopped, his shirt stained, but he didn't know what Canna had done to him. The girl was calm. She had been planning the composition of this decoction for a long time, so now her brother would suffer a little instead of her. The guy did not understand what she meant, but a strange hiss suddenly sounded under his shirt. Orsini clutched his chest, his skin burning badly under the layer of fabric. The guy began to pull off his clothes in a hurry to inspect the skin, but the decoction continued to work and burned his body more. The burning sensation was replaced by a sharp pain when a large burn appeared on the boy's chest. Canna liked how helpless her brother looked. She could use a concoction that burned flesh as a child, but she was afraid of it. The girl promised that it would hurt more and terrible scars would remain if Orsini did not apply the antidote soon. The guy fell to the floor from sharp pain, but Canna offered Orsini to apologize to her, and then she would provide him with medicine. The guy was breathing heavily. He couldn't believe that he had been deceived so easily, and now he was also demanding an apology. The last curses flew out of Orsini's mouth before he lost consciousness. There was a cheerful banquet atmosphere in the imperial palace. A messenger made his way through the crowd of aristocrats who was looking for the Duke of Hadis. A special letter from the family estate was sent to the Duke. The Duke opened the envelope. His surprise was easy to understand because the butler announced the return of Canna Addis to the family mansion, which caused a smile to appear on the man's face. Orsini was lying on the floor when Cullen appeared in the room. The guy could not believe that Canna was able to overcome Orsini with the help of a concoction, although she had never responded to their brother's attacks before. The girl convinced her brother that the decoction had an antidote, which she came up with at the age of 14, but Orsini refused the deal, so he lost consciousness. Cullen was shocked. He still couldn't get used to the fact that Can was a different person now. But the sister was not interested in Orsini's condition. Now it was important that needles would soon be brought to treat Lucy. The girl asked her brother to tell her when everything was ready, so that they could carry out the first procedure. Cullen did not detain his sister. He would deal with Orsini's body himself. The time was approaching night, when Cullen walked alone through the corridors of the mansion. Many questions haunted him, especially the fact that at the age of 14, their sister was so smart that she prepared dangerous concoctions in the underground laboratory. Orsini, the best swordsman in the Empire, whose power can destroy stones, but even he turned out to be incredibly weak before the concoction. Cullen still couldn't understand how Canna could have such talents, but not use them, continuing to endure any humiliation in the past. After the events in the laboratory, the guy began to think that Canna's soul has changed, because now she is not afraid to counterstrike even family members. Late in the evening, the magic master sent a box of medical needles. Canna carefully picked up a new tool to check its dimensions. After examining the needle from all sides, the girl was convinced that the quality of the tool was excellent and could be used to treat Lucy. The acupuncture technique is designed to pierce clogged channels and restore blood flow throughout the body, and the created needles from magic stones of the highest grade will help to ensure that the treatment takes place in an accelerated mode. The parcel also contained packages of medicines that were collected according to the Canna list. But before going to treat the girl, Canny handed her brother a contract, which caused him to fall into a stupor. The guy was hurt by the fact that his promise was not believed, but Canna needs guarantees that she can stay in the house, and the best way to do this is to sign a contract with conditions. Cullen had no desire to argue for a long time. He put a seal on the document only so that Lucy could soon begin to restore her health. After checking the authenticity of the seal, the girl was convinced that the promised guarantees from Cullen would now be fulfilled. Canna returned to Lucy's room with the medical equipment. The girl laid Lucy on the bed to begin the procedure. Canna picked up the needle and almost injected it, when suddenly Cullen shouted in a panic not to do it. The brother demanded to know why the needle was inserted next to the neck, and moved Canna's hand away from Lucy to be convincing. The girl watched the quarrel, but when she heard about the injections, she jumped out of bed. Canna demanded to let go of her hand so that she could continue with her treatment, but Cullen persistently waited for an explanation. The brother squeezed the girl's hand harder. Canna was not in the mood for her brother's emotionality, so she advised him to decide whether he needed this treatment or not. The girl understood that the longer they delayed treatment, the stronger the consequences would be. Cullen was confused. Fears were now fighting in his soul. He had never seen such treatments, so he was afraid of complications. Lucy didn't interfere in the conversation, but overheard that Canna had developed acupuncture while studying alchemy, so Cullen should trust her. The girl stepped closer to her brother, her voice calm, but the phrase that for Cullen her request for her to believe her was fateful. Cullen did not know what to do. He never trusted Canna Addis because her reputation consisted of contempt in noble society. However, now he was faced with another Canna, confident in her work and that she was ready to accept any consequences. The thought of Lucy having to pierce her skin with a needle tormented Cullen, but Canna's confidence gave him hope. The brother let go of the girl's hand and promised that he trusted her methods of treatment. Canna returned all attention to Lucy, but demanded that Cullen move away from the bed, otherwise he might not be able to resist and interfere in the process. It took the girl a little time to calm down, because Cullen's behavior infuriated her. Lucy began to worry about her brother, so her muscles can catch a spasm from the tension and the girl will feel pain. Canna noticed the girl trembling and tried to distract her. The girl promised to carry out the treatment well, but it is necessary that Lucy follows all her instructions. The baby was confused. She was in no hurry to answer, but she understood that she could not wait any longer. After thinking for a while, the girl admitted that her sister is the only person who promised to cure her, so Lucy believes her. Although Canna had never known Lucy, she already understood that she took any challenge seriously. The girl put Lucy back on the bed so that she took the right position for the procedure, after which she made the first injection. After the procedure was completed, Lucy was finally able to move a small part of her face. The girl was able to move her lips without any problems, and such a quick result from the treatment impressed Cullen very much. Canna herself did not expect the result from the first procedure, but the highest quality needles coped with the treatment, so after such a success, she hoped for Cullen's trust. After finishing the examination, the girl realized that in a few sessions she would be able to heal Lucy, provided that the correct treatment with decoctions was observed. Canna was heading out of the bedroom when Cullen called her sister. The guy was embarrassed. He had not seen a sister in the girl before, so to hide the awkwardness, he asked Canna to rest until the next procedure. The girl just left the bedroom in silence. As she headed to her room, she thought that soon Cullen's patience would run out, and he would be eager to beat out the answers to all his questions. But Canna is sure that over the past 7 years that they have not seen each other, Cullen does not arouse much interest in her, as well as the rest of the Otis family. The fact that even as a child, Canna sought to show herself in the best light was no longer important. Back in her bedroom, Canna noticed that someone had just cleaned the room and a fire was burning in the fireplace. The many events exhausted the girl. She fell wearily on the bed, although she returned home again. But her hatred for her family did not go away, so Canna reminded herself again that she was here for a different purpose. She had seen many times how the relationship of relatives instantly changed, and she saw no point in correcting their behavior, so the girl just decided to go to bed. In the morning, Canna's peaceful sleep was overshadowed by the sudden appearance of her stepmother, who did not hide her irritation towards the girl. Canna hadn't seen this woman in years, but she was still a disgusting person, ready to ruin any morning. The owner of the family, Addis, was clearly in the mood for a quarrel, because in her absence, Orsini was injured through the fault of Canna. Chloe Addis swung her palm at the girl. The woman could not tolerate the fact that someone ignored her. Love for her son did not subside in Chloe. Canna was used to such behavior, but putting her palm to the bruise on her cheek, she asked the woman to make do with words in the future. Her stepmother swung again in indignation, but her action was interrupted by Cullen's voice. The guy burst into the bedroom after his mother. He could not allow her to spoil the relationship with Canna while she was treating Lucy. The woman demanded to tell everything. She was not ready to tolerate an exile in her house, especially after she dared to injure Orsini. Canna found it funny that she had a new status in the family, although she just got married and left home herself. Chloe jerked towards the girl, infuriated by her fearless behavior, but Cullen held her mother in place and reminded her that Canna was his guest. Maintaining the norms of decency, the woman caustically noted that although Canna was her son's guest, this did not mean that she was happy to see her. After the incident in the lab, Orsini was in great agony, so Chloe went to Canna to demand an antidote for healing. Chloe did not ask for the medicine. She ordered the girl to give it back until she received a serious punishment. Canna felt that her stepmother was bluffing, so she relaxed and asked for an apology in exchange for the medicine. The woman was taken aback, but she had no choice but to apologize insincerely for not holding back her emotions. However, Canna did not accept them. So resigned, Chloe squeezed the hem of her dress hard and hissed a promise that her attacks would not happen again. Although Canna got what she wanted, she noticed how quickly the woman agreed to her terms, which means that she already understands the danger Canna can pose. Wanting the named guests to leave her chambers as soon as possible, the girl took a bottle out of the bedside table. After handing her stepmother the antidote, Canna instructed her to apply the medicine in 1 drop. Initially, Canna wanted Orsini to apologize, but the appearance of the stepmother is also enough, because the girl did not care about Orsini. Back then, in the lab, the girl couldn't help herself. She just wanted to vent a little anger. Chloe relaxed when she received the antidote, so nothing else kept her in the girl's bedroom. But she did not seek to leave. Instead, she began to convince the girl to go to her son and carry out the treatment herself. Canna realized what games her stepmother was playing. She did not believe in the power of medicine, so she was looking for an excuse to catch the girl in deception. Canna decided to play along with her stepmother and went with her to Orsini. Although Orsini suffered from a burning pain in his chest, he still found the strength to insult Canna. The girl was not offended by this situation, but she decided to threaten and promised that at any moment she could accidentally break the bottle of medicine if Orsini continued. The guy fell silent. His strength was already running out when Canna bent over him to apply the balm. The sister was a little worried about her brother, especially when he tried to ask her if the antidote would really work. This behavior surprised the girl. She wondered why Orsini trusted her. By poking the guy in the chest, next to the burn site, the girl frightened him that he should not trust her, because the medicine may well be another decoction that can kill him. The stepmother began to yell at Kana in fright, but the girl had already achieved her goal. Now Orsini would be afraid to harm her. The whole situation looked ridiculous. Kani praised her brother for the fact that he, being the strongest swordsman, would definitely not be afraid to take medicine. Chloe hurried the girl, and Kana, wanting to leave her brother's bedroom as soon as possible, opened the bottle. Orsini did not stir until the girl poured all the balm on his wound. A slight chill passed through the guy's skin, after which the inflamed burn began to heal gradually. Cullen and Chloe watched in shock at how quickly the medication dealt with the injury. Chloe, of course, was glad that the antidote turned out to be real, although the whole healing process looked doubtful. Since she was a child, Chloe had been watching Kana, and then her passion for alchemy was a common activity. But now that she saw the power in it, she was worried about what else Kana was willing to do for her own benefit. Without waiting any longer, Kana abruptly rose from Orsini's bed. She walked past her relatives to the exit. She wanted to go to bed and not meet other family members as long as possible. The girl went to the door, still angry that Chloe had broken into her bedroom and woken her up because of such a trifle. Kana reached for opening the door, as if she froze in the aisle for a second. Her breath failed. The one she saw in front of her was definitely not supposed to meet her today. Alexandro Otis was standing in the corridor. He had arrived from the Imperial Ball, and without even changing his social attire, he went straight to Orsini's. Kana froze in place as her father held out his hand in her direction. In the next moment, the man's fingers clenched on the girl's cheek, and he patted her like a father, which confused Kana. After that, loosening his grip, the man gently stroked the girl's face. He behaved as if he was glad to see Kana back. Finally, the girl gained freedom of thought. The tension subsided, but she did not understand what her father was doing, because in all her life in the estate, he had never touched her like this before. Alexandro Addis looked happy. He was glad to have Kana Addis back in the family home, but the girl was shocked that he still considered her Addis and not Valentino. Kana felt strange. She had spent a long time with Li Juhua's father, so it was difficult for her to call Alexandro Addis her father, but she found the strength to be polite and nurtured. The girl knew that she needed to explain as soon as possible why she had come to the estate, because her father's goodwill could disappear at any moment. There was too much upheaval for Cullen and his mother in a day. Even now that Duke Addis's behavior was different, they didn't know how to behave, so they silently watched from the sidelines. Chloe is infuriated that her husband has forgotten about the order now, and instead of kicking the girl out, he stands next to her and tries to listen to Kana. The Duke carefully watched his daughter's actions, and this concentration did not give the woman peace, because her husband looked as if he was really trying to listen to his daughter's words. A little ridiculous and stuttering, Kana told the whole story of her getting into the house, so she asked her father not to punish Cullen for staying at the estate for a while to finish Lucy's treatment. Silence hung in the room. The father did not interrupt the girl's monologue, but did not dare to say anything in response yet. Because of the anticipation, Kana once again felt like a child who was under the weight of her father's sentence. But the man did not reproach the girl in any way. He just understood her story, which alarmed his daughter. Alexandro advised his daughter to do as she wished, and this was the first time he had shown understanding to her. While the stunned girl was standing in the middle of the room, the man turned around and went to the exit. Kana did not expect such a turn of events. Her father had never allowed her to do as she wished, although perhaps her father meant that if she wanted to die, then he would not interfere with her. The evening ended quietly, and a new day came to Addis Manor, which promised to smooth out the turmoil that had taken place. However, all the calm was shattered when Isabel, one of Alexandro Addis's daughters, found out about what had happened the day before. The girl was angry at the return of Kana. Now that Isabel returned to the estate, the entire Addis family gathered under one roof again, which meant that a lot of trouble awaited them ahead. The family years ago when Kana got married, Isabel was incredibly happy that she might never see her half-sister. After leaving, Alexandro Addis imposed a ban on the girl appearing at any social events, which is why Kana had to go into the shadows, being in Valentino's estate. Isabel enjoyed the rumors of the punishments that the Countess of Ellister practiced, so she did not worry about the life of her half-sister. Now that Canna had returned to the estate and reinforced her presence in the house with an additional contract with Cullen, Isabel had little chance of sending her sister outside. Such news from her mother confused the girl. She was not at home for several hours, but now everything was different. Isabel was angry with her brother. What she heard from her mother seemed like a lie to her, but somewhere deep inside her, an uncontrollable rage was forming. Cullen was at work in the office when suddenly a strong punch hit the door.
Like this video. Hit the like button and subscribe for more videos.